Great. So, welcome everybody. This is the kind of wrap-up session to the series of training courses that we've run over the last few weeks. And really, what I wanted to do is to use it to go over this kind of hybrid learning checklist of some of the things that we've used, and also to bring out some of the points that we haven't yet discussed. So as we go through today's session, what I just want you to kind of think about is obviously hybrid learning is a massive change process in that respect, and really that you grab from this kind of catalyst moment of what you want you and your school to achieve. So what tools that we offer through Office 365 best match to how your learning goes on in the class, if you see what I mean. So instead of there being, taking absolutely everything in, then you may well pick the best of using OneNote and using Microsoft Forms, for example, or even just a more simplistic way of being able to get information from students when they're at home by using the OneDrive request files option. So let's crack on. So in this kind of hybrid learning toolkit, really, if you're starting from scratch, we have these 4 sections that we really need to give due consideration to, and that is the devices, or the types of device that you're using, and obviously the devices that your students have access to if they are doing home learning. Obviously the platform, well, the platform is, for us, is Office 365, and that we're, as I said, we're aware of the wide variety of tools that we have, but we may well as a school just be drilling down to making best use of forms or something like that. Obviously, if you're delivering hybrid learning, what does the classroom look like in the way of traditionally devices are hardwired to the front of the class, maybe pointing towards a wall or something like that. So maybe giving some thought to the technology that's in place really adds to the engagement that you can really create for students learning in the class, and also students taking part in that same lesson but based from home. And then, of course, there's the CPD side. So that really is CPD for teachers, but also, again, that linked to the platform above it is what are we teaching the students and how are we teaching them to access that. And then also the ability to bring parents on this journey as well, because if students are learning from home, then parents need to know A, what's going on, and B, how they can support their students as they go forward. So let's start with number 1, the device. Obviously, as schools, we've kind of gone from the desktop PC arena into laptops, and now we have obviously more mobile devices. So not saying that everybody has to sell any laptops and go and buy shiny new devices, but giving the right consideration to the device is really important to get the best out of it. So for example, if we take the kind of current thinking, the 2-in-1 format device, so a portable device, very light, got a detachable keyboard, so you've got a tablet and a full-blown Windows 10 PC in the one device. So if you're creating that hybrid learning environment and you want that engagement, that you want to be able to move easily around the class, maybe sort of engage with other people and things like that, the right device is going to be really important. So this device you see on the screen here is the Microsoft Surface Pro. There is also the Microsoft Surface Go, which is its smaller brother. And these are fully functional, fully featured Windows 10 devices, which will do all of the Microsoft and Office 365 and hybrid learning functionality that you would expect. Of course, there are similar devices from other manufacturing partners, so Dell and Lenovo all make similar designs based from the Surface device. But the 2-in-1 format is really important in that respect, giving you the functionality of the format of, it could be used as a visualizer to hold over something that you want to show a child at home, for example, in that combined sort of hybrid mode lesson. Obviously, the ability for high quality cameras, rear and front facing, is essential. So again, if you're kind of building this hybrid learning model off an 8-year-old, 10-year-old laptop or something like that, the quality of those cameras will certainly not be as good as something more modern. And again, on the Surface device, you have a wide angle 1080p camera that sits at the back there, and also a front facing camera as well. So camera quality, again, when you're building this out and you're making that technology investment, or you are using the money to sort of invest back or in the school in that respect, the device and that quality camera when you're doing teams and things like that is obviously very, very important as well. And of course, added to that is the microphone. So the microphone itself, obviously built into the device. Again, microphone technology has really come along in the last couple of years. However, you might want to think about even using a Bluetooth headset, or even earbuds, or an earbud, for example. We see lots of schools kind of actually adopting that method, where the teacher can walk around the classroom and the earbud or the headset on them is picking up the audio and relaying that back to the machine. So those kind of things are really important. Obviously, you can spend a lot of money on a high-end device, but the Surface Go device starts at as little as £399 plus a keyboard. So again, if you're interested in maybe looking at those options, you can speak to Simon Mobbs, who would be able to help you out with maybe looking at one face-to-face or a demo or something like that, perhaps. But certainly these are the kind of devices that you really need to think about being at the core of your hybrid learning environment with Office 365. Now, of course, every Surface device is really built around the Surface Pen and digital inking. So obviously digital inking gives you natural handwriting capabilities. It allows you to do on the screen of the device what you might be doing on the screen of the whiteboard if everybody was in the class. And of course, if you've got other pen devices in the classroom, students can model what you're doing as well, in that same manner. And of course, if you've got the digital pen, if I just go back a slide here, that kickstand at the back of the device is fully frictional, so it moves the device down from that kind of upright position that you see there all the way down into essentially a piece of digital paper on the table in front of you. So digital inking is really important in the way of being able to just offer that engagement and make it a more natural experience for maybe teachers giving feedback to students, or getting the best from OneNote, as we've mentioned before. So the next couple of slides simply is a bit of a checklist. So the checklist really for this hybrid learning model is obviously tick, you've got an Office 365 tenant that's set up. And if you haven't yet fully engaged with that, again, speak to the team, and that can be obviously easily set up and arranged. That your staff know their logons, because everything that we do in Office 365 is built around the identity of the staff member and the student. So have your staff got logons? Do they know what it is? Can they log in from home? And obviously student logons as well. So if we're building this hybrid way of delivering the learning, we need to ensure that our students have logons. Our students can access Office 365 from school, and of course that they can access that from home as well. And then the last one here is what we call school data sync, which is an automatic process that that brings in all the teaching groups from your MIS, or alternatively that we've created these manual class groups. So it means when you're assigning a piece of homework or you want to contact a class, for example, that you're not having to type in 30 emails, you're actually typing year 6 at or year 5 at, saving time and speeding up that process at that point. So these are all the kind of behind the scenes checklists that we would want to make sure that you've got, which puts you in a great stead for using Office 365. And then the front of house checklist really is the fact that we have got access to all of these elements. So as we mentioned in the first session that we run, you've got OneDrive, which is really your hub for personal storage. And in the most basic form of engaging students at home and homework and setting assignments, that you can use the request files option in OneDrive, which allows students to simply create their work at home and upload it securely and safely to the teacher. Obviously, Microsoft Teams, which is our communication and collaboration hub, and really storage hub as well. So, you know, resources for lessons, resources for the school should be there. And from an information flow perspective, really, Microsoft Teams should be the teacher hub for your organization. You know, so teachers should be able to maybe get staff room information from within Teams in a team, but also go off to their class and be able to make an assignment or communicate with their classes that way. So Microsoft Forms, again, Forms really being that assessment tool where we can set quizzes really easily, we can reuse them, we can set quizzes directly in Forms and share it with our class. Alternatively, we can amalgamate a form that we've created or a quiz, and we can use that as an assessment tool in Teams and grade it and create a gradebook and look at some insights, which I'll show you later. Obviously, OneNote itself, OneNote is our digital notepad. So again, as I mentioned when we started this call, that we don't want to maybe think from day one that we need to use everything. So we'll see, you know, it might not be that OneNote is the right place at the moment, but really that you are aware that OneNote is that kind of digital notepad. And in Microsoft Teams, it's called a class notebook. So again, depending on how you teach, depending on what year group we're talking about, OneNote could be really applicable. Maybe from lower down the school, it might not be as applicable in that respect. But certainly, you know, the ideal companion tool to digital inking on a modern day device. And then we have Microsoft Stream. So Microsoft Stream is really your in-house YouTube storage area effectively. So Stream allows you to record lessons. It allows you to record assemblies, for example, and obviously students who aren't in school at the time can play those back as and when and on demand, if you see what I mean. So likewise, it may well be the fact that, you know, as we go into the new year, that you may record lessons that you allow students to catch up on or to refocus on and things like that. But Stream is a tool that you can use both on your desktop PC, and you can also use it on your mobile phone, your smartphone. So it could even be the fact that you are walking around the school and you want to showcase something or showcase something outside. You could use Stream, record it to Office 365 and share that in a team with a class of students. And of course, I did mention when we looked at it in Microsoft Word, the fact that we have learning tools, and really that accessibility and inclusivity in the classroom is really down to that product. And we see this very much everywhere. So in Word, in PowerPoint, in OneNote, in Forms, in Minecraft now, and many other applications in the Office 365 suite. So again, when it comes to that CPD side of it, it's kind of making sure that students know that they have access to these tools. So if it's a tool that can help them do the job, then so much for the better. And then we have Flipgrid. Flipgrid, again, may be something that you want to consider. I remember I touched on it in the last session, but Flipgrid is the ability to create video assignments. And again, in a safe and secure manner with your Office 365 identity. So you can pose a question, a video question to the class. And they can go home and then they can use their smartphone, their iPad, or their desktop PC at home, whatever they've got, to create that answer to that question and start that discussion. And again, we'll have a bit more of an in-depth view in that after this deck. And then one that I think is really important is when we talk about sort of deploying all of this new technology. Wakelet is another addition to the Microsoft Office portfolio recently, and this allows you to create effectively a collection or a document store which is public facing, so you can share this information with parents. So it may be that you create a guide on how to log on to Office 365 for students, for example. You share that link with the parents, and parents can go and download that resource really easy. So it's kind of like a cross between a website and a document store. And it allows you to really kind of engage with parents. So you may well find you're using it for technology stuff, but you may well find that you would use Wakelet for other areas in the class as well. So Wakelet is really keen. Again, it's a free tool which allows you to create these great collections. And again, we'll show you that at the end of the deck, effectively. And lastly, I suppose, before we kind of delve into the whole kind of Office suite and those things, we've got the external checklist. And the external checklist really is to make sure that, again, in this hybrid learning environment, that we understand that we know our kids have got the broadband connectivity. So they're not trying to do this off maybe a single smartphone. And obviously schools go through a lot of work in identifying those users in school in that respect. And obviously, you know, the resources that schools have that can help those students at that point. Likewise, obviously, as I mentioned, the ability to make sure that those students understand the ability, you know, what they need to do to log on to Office 365 as that chosen platform. So that ability that they can go to a web browser and type in office.com and type in their username and a password is key to the whole thing. You know, if they can't do that, then that hybrid learning environment doesn't exist. So we need to make sure that we've got those kind of basic instructions and these children taught, and we relay that to parents as well, as they are normally at home the first line of support for those students, about, you know, it should be as fluent as it is for them to go and play Minecraft effectively. And then likewise, as I said there, do the parents have that basic understanding of logging in and finding work and lessons? So these are all things that you can actually, as a school, kind of relay to the parents by maybe creating a Wakelet collection as well. So as we said, you know, if we take the most basic level of creating this kind of hybrid learning environment, the most basic form is simply this idea of using OneDrive, okay, where we can create a folder, for example, there, computing homework. We click on the folder itself, we hit the button at the top of the screen that says request files, and you've now got a link which you can email out to your class that says, here's the task, please upload your information to here. So this can be a great kind of lesson starter even in school, to make sure that students can log into Office 365, know how to upload something, and they are the same skills that they would use if they were using Teams later on. So the default path, OneDrive, request files, is nice and straightforward. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we've got Microsoft Teams. So we have covered already in these sessions, we've covered the idea of being able to create a team. And remember, as an educator, you have access to these 4 teams: the class team, the PLC, and the staff team. And this is where Teams really becomes your communication hub as well. So, you know, you might be one moment you might be in a staff team talking to a colleague at the other end of the school, or you might be collaborating with other schools in a PLC team, and then you could be setting assignments in a class team. Okay, and it really becomes the default piece of software where you don't really kind of leave Teams during the day, because as we've got there, we've got all of that functionality in there. And of course, as we kind of, you know, move on from the OneDrive step into using Teams and holding these online meetings, then the meeting options that are in Microsoft Teams constantly evolve. And when I say constantly evolve, that's probably the wrong word to describe it, but they evolve based on the feedback of educators like yourselves. So the most recent set of updates are all about how we start a meeting. So you'd have noticed as you joined today's meeting, you were admitted to the lobby, and then Simon would have to admit you into the call. And of course, that's one of the things where previously teachers have been creating meetings themselves, not getting their this ability that we have refined the meeting experience, so we can make sure that other people can't present. So we can refine that. We can make sure that attendees can't unmute themselves, so we have less disruption in that lesson itself as well. Microsoft Forms, as I mentioned in that original hit list there, you know, great tool. We've got that functionality where we can ensure that we are using forms for a positive assessment tool that we can either use again within that kind of basic scenario of just using OneDrive and Forms, or we are integrating forms within our teaching and learning within Teams, within a lesson like that as well. Of course, OneNote, as I mentioned, is that digital notepad, and again, really the partner companion for using the digital pen on a device like a Surface or Lenovo, and then those learning tools in their own right. So learning tools itself, quite simply, as I said, it's spread across the whole environment now. So again, one of those things that when we talk to students about the right tools, being able to log on, being able to use this tool as well, it really is that kind of essential part of that kind of student or cloud ready student to make the most of that as well. So one of the things that we going to have a look on in a moment is going to be the use of Flipgrid here. And what we have done, if people can see that URL we see there, the Flipgrid CB014, that is a Flipgrid that you would be able to take part in. So if you want to jot that URL down, and open a browser and go and have a quick look at it, what you should find is a Flipgrid starter question from me about Office 365. Now, Flipgrid itself is all about this idea of video learning. Oh, let's have a quick look at Teams. Oh, good, nice, thanks, Simon. So it's all about this idea of video learning. So about the idea of posing a question, and if I was posing a question in class, normally I would find that some regular students will be putting their hands up and bits and pieces, but really Flipgrid is something that entices people, everybody, to have a voice. And they can create their own video snippet answers, and they can be sort of a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. They've got tools in Flipgrid that allow them to customize that and do the kind of social media things in the way of adding text and you know, icons and things like that to their answers as well. So Flipgrid, as I say, as an educator, you can go to flipgrid.com, sign up for free as an educator using your Office 365 account, and record your question. You can either do it on your PC, or you can pick up a smartphone and download the Flipgrid app and do it that way as well. Okay, so have a look at that URL, flipgrid.com CB01 or 4AE7. And when you want to contribute to this community that we're creating, please feel free to record an answer to the question of what is your favorite thing in Office 365. And let's see if we can grow a community of tips and tricks about Office 365 in school. Now, this is Wakelet, and again, I'm going to kind of take you through this step by step in a moment. But this is a kind of great example about what Wakelet can be. So this is a public-facing Wakelet site, and in that Wakelet site, I get my Wakelet categories. Okay, and in there I can put links to pretty much anything that I want to, and I'll show you that obviously in a second. So this is the tool I'm talking about that you can really utilize to engage parents with. So you know, without having to you know, maybe send something to someone to upload onto your website or do that. This is a real straightforward, let me add this file to this collection, or this video to this collection, or something like that. And you can use this securely and safely within the Office 365 environment. And then lastly, really, it was that mention of the place itself, the class itself. You know, not forgetting that really, you know, the traditional classroom has our whiteboard at the front of the class with our maybe hardwired laptop or desktop PC there, kind of thing. But maybe now is the time that you want to think about, if you're looking at a refresh soon or something like that, where we can bring that technology to life in an engaging way as well. So maybe looking at a more mobile device like the Surface, maybe looking at functionality like Miracast, where you as the teacher can take that device and walk around the classroom, engaging the students, showing students who are hybrid learning at home, you know, what's going on as well, to make the most engaging environment that we can. And likewise, if you have any questions like that about, you know, that kind of classroom layout, again, Simon and the team can really help offer the best advice to bring that kind of learning area to life for you from a technology basis. So here's the next URL to have a look at. This is the access to the Wakelet. So again, you'll be able to, if you set your own Wakelet up for your school, you'll get a similar kind of URL, which you would be able to simply publish to parents, and they would be able to have a look at those resources. So in this particular Wakelet, this is where we have started to put all of the hybrid learning, Teams resources, Office 365 tips, etc., are all going to be based here. So please grab that URL, because it will be really important to you even after the call, and will allow you to access these resources as you kind of go on and use Office 365. So wakelet.com/@kevinsake1662, and I'm sure Simon's probably dropped that already into the IM for you as well. But I am going to take you through in a moment how you access that, how you create it, and how simple it is to get started with Wakelet. And then lastly, educator community, again, mentioned it a few times ago, but really just to re-emphasize that when we're talking about CPD, when we're talking about creating these environments in your school, that the hybrid learning is really at the heart of the where we are at the moment. So there's great resources, and you can see off the front page the first two resources are set up your hybrid learning classroom, and then the first course on there is hybrid learning using Teams, basically. So again, education.microsoft.com. We have added these courses also into the Wakelet as well, so you will also be able to pick these courses up directly from the Wakelet itself. Cool. So that takes us to the end of that. So I'm just going to close that down and actually going to take you straight to the Wakelet itself in its entirety. So if you're looking at the Wakelet already, you can follow along, but really just to show you that, yep, this is what we have. We have a series of resources. So we've got courses and resources. We've got Microsoft Teams tips. You've got mobile apps for hybrid learning. So things like using Office Lens on a smartphone. Office Lens on a smartphone is a hand scanner where you can literally point your phone at a poster or an image, and it will do some clever AI stuff behind the scenes, scan it, and then send it into your Teams, for example, or into your OneDrive. So that's going to be where we're going to put more information about the mobile environment of hybrid learning as well. Remote learning section its own right. OneNote for teachers. So again, if you want to focus in on using OneNote as that digital tool, you can easily just click on that collection, and in that collection you'll see the link here to the OneNote in education guides as well. But as a school, if you were going to set this up, how easy is it? Well, it is really straightforward. All you're going to do is click on the one that says, you're going to go to wakelet.com and click on the one that says sign up, it's free. And at that point, you're going to sign in or sign up with your Microsoft Office 365 account. Now, I've already got one, obviously. So if I choose the sign in button, I go to my Microsoft login, and I'm going to go to my email address, and very much you can see behind the scenes now what that front page is talking about. So here in the session, I've got what we call collections. Okay, and collections really are literally the collection of resources. So for example, if I wanted to create a new collection, which might be, should we say, a new collection, and we might call it IT resources for parents. Okay, I can customize it. I can add some covers. So I can let me just take a picture, for example. There we go. Just make that a little bit thinner. There we go. And now I can add any resource I want. So if I click on the plus here, okay, I can add any URL. I can add maybe a link to a YouTube video, tweets if I wanted to, bookmarks, images, PDFs, really important, maybe something from OneDrive or Google Drive, for example, any resources like that. So for example, if I wanted to, let's have a look, let's find something that we can add. Let's have a think. Let's go to OneDrive. There we go. So if I go to OneDrive, this is going to point me to my OneDrive, and we'll see. I'm just going to pick a file there just to show you how easy it will be to add a document into a collection like that. So it's now making the connection to my OneDrive, and we should be able to see, hopefully in a minute, a list of documents. There we go. So for example, let's pick out the presentation. No, let's pick out the Word document instead. Choose open, and it should have a think about it. and then we should have that document get added there. I can now go in and edit that description. I can add something. I could change the image if it hadn't put an image in there for sure. There we go. We would have that. We would have a document in my collection. If I choose to just set it as a public at the moment or unlisted, I set mine to public because I want more people to see it, but only if we want parents to see it, we would set it to unlisted at that point. And then if I look at my profile, my public profile, my parent-facing side of it, what we will have is we will now have a new collection here called IT Resources for Parents. So I can email my parents, I can tell my parents that, look, here are all the resources that you will need for understanding what we're doing with IT and hybrid learning at school, for example. And obviously it doesn't just have to be for IT. This is a great tool that you can use to maybe publicize any documents or any links or any resources that you want your parents to have a look at in that respect. So just remember, Wakelet to get started. I will remove that one a little bit later. But if we look at things like courses and resources, here you'll find, for example, here is a point back to the Flipgrid for Office 365 top tips. We've got a couple of the courses from the Microsoft Education Center in there. And then you'll also see here is the link to the ICT Solutions YouTube channel. So here you'll be able to find some of the recordings that we've done earlier and some of the other resources that we've put up there as well. So a nice easy spot where you can go back to and find those resources on top of the stuff that we've got in there for Teams as well. So wakelet.com to get started. Let's pop that one down and we can stare at a picture of myself. So for those who haven't got to the Wakelet, sorry, the Flipgrid so far, this is the Flipgrid itself. And basically, if I play this button, you won't be able to hear it because I haven't turned on my external sound effectively, but this would be me posing a question to you. And what you can do as a student is you can then record a response. Okay, so by recording a response means I can set a certain criteria of that response, how long it's going to be, kind of things like that. And I will then see, as the teacher, I will see those responses come in. And again, I can reply to those in a number of ways. So this really means that you can totally engage students who have, a smartphone either in their pocket or at home in that respect, or are using that kind of mobile first device to allow that question answering to go on. What we can do is you can maybe start that kind of process using Flipgrid, but we can then integrate that Flipgrid into Microsoft Teams, for example, as well. So all of these packages link together quite seamlessly in that respect. So if I went into my admin Flipgrid, so if I go to my educator login, there we go. So as the teacher, this is what I see. So this is my first topic. I can obviously create another topic really easily just by adding a topic. If I go into my Office 365, there we go. I can see I've had 16 views, so that numbers have gone up rapidly this afternoon. Thank you very much. And there's the video again. Okay. And what I would then see is I would then have a collection over a period of time of questions and answers by the class. Now I could then choose, as I say, choose to bring those into maybe Microsoft Teams. I could make them a resource as well like that. But really, a great tool that you can get started with. And we've got some great getting started resources with Flipgrid in the Wakelet, which allow you to kind of experiment and do more with the technology that A, you have, and B, of course, that your students have in that home environment. So if we'll just close that down. The other thing that I did want to talk about before I just go into Teams for the kind of wrap up bit here is, as I mentioned, when we looked at that meeting settings and things like that, this is all driven by user feedback, and it's driven by user feedback from people like yourselves. And this is the portal that Microsoft use to get that user feedback. So if you have an idea about Microsoft Teams or Microsoft Forms or whatever, you can make suggestions on this website, and it's called Microsoft Teams User Voice for education. And then it gets voted upon. So as it gets voted upon, these things are reviewed regularly by Microsoft, as you can see there under review. And as you can see, the one there with the most votes, the integrate assignments with calendar, they're now working on it. So what I would encourage you to do as you do more with Microsoft Teams, as you do more with Office 365, is don't just be a passive user with this. Really kind of, bring that feedback loop back to Microsoft so this can be evolved and developed and changed as we go forward in that respect. So that's the user voice, and again I'm going to put that as a link into the Wakelet resource as well, for you to be able to access. So if we now pop back into the that team space, so if you are using Teams in that hybrid learning environment, I just want to just run over just a couple of other things that we haven't really kind of mentioned previously in that respect, or we have, but let me just review a couple of things. Okay, so really in that team space, we always start off with the this posts area. Okay, and really that the post area, even if you're not using the whole class team, the post area for people who are at home, self-isolating and that kind of thing, really is your communication hub for those people. Okay, so that again, one of those kind of core skill checklists really is that ability of being able to sign into Office 365, go to that web page and hit the Teams button and find the class team that you're in and leave me a message. Now, this may be something that you do in class to start with, and of course, please be aware that you probably will have floods and floods of messages and things like that, but these kids, have to understand it, use it, and get that initial flurry out of the system, if you see what I mean. But from a student perspective, this really is that class discussion, class collaboration, peer-to-peer collaboration as well, that can go on here. Now, we mentioned previously this idea of having what we call a channel. Okay, and bearing in mind that this is really more computing really as a topic, so in a primary school this may be more based around the class group itself, but we're also just about to launch in the new year what we call breakout rooms within Teams as well. So breakout rooms really allows you to subdivide a class into smaller working groups as well. So watch out for some new news coming about that really soon. And you as the teacher manage that whole aspect, so you can bring people back in from a breakout room into a space, into your general channel, and close the room or various things like that. But some extra functionality, which again is coming, which is based on that feedback of that perspective. So Teams itself, yes, class collaboration, peer-to-peer collaboration for sure. In a staff team, obviously that's where staff collaboration could go on, or messaging between staff and so on, rather than that more formalized email in that respect. Likewise, again, depending on how your setup is, we see some examples of schools that actually incorporate some external access and allow other schools to collaborate as well. So that could be another thing to think about in that point. Remember though that files is your team OneDrive. So class materials for that class are stored there. In that respect, we then get the OneNote class notebook as well. So the OneNote class notebook is that digital pen and paper scenario. And then obviously we have that assignments area and the grades area. But if you look up here, what I have done is I have also added something now called Insights. So the great thing about moving to this hybrid learning environment that we've created really means that as the data is created in Office 365, as the students are completing assignments and things like that, what you're doing is you are generating that data internally. And behind the scenes, in the engine room of Office 365, there is some lovely AI called the Microsoft Graph, which kind of links all this together. And what they've recently done is they've recently created this in a kind of a front-facing way in a product called Insights. And again, this is free, so you can add this to a team. And if I decide to click on Insights, this will now give me some analytics based on my class. Now, this is a demo class, so you're not going to see a great thing yet. So I only have 2 inactive students, but you probably get the gist of this being able to analyze the work that your students are doing using Microsoft Teams to give you a data pinch point of what's going on in the class as it goes through the year, the term, the month, however you want to look at it. Obviously, when you are using it to make assignments, you'll actually see that gradebook per student. So you'll be able to see things like progress reports and stuff like that, all done for free within the Office 365 Microsoft Teams environment. Okay. Likewise, you can see poor old Kevin demo has been inactive for 7 days, and it actually flags that up as well. So again, this is something that myself as a teacher gets to see, but as a student you don't. So I'm seeing that kind of overarching view, and obviously the student only sees the other things which I want them to see in that respect. So again, if we were doing that kind of process really kind of straightforwardly, so we say we wanted to add that assignment into the for the class. If we created an assignment, we could do that assignment, but likewise, as I mentioned, having forms at the heart of what we do as well, I can easily create a quiz. Okay, and here's one I created earlier, which was the race to space. And again, so very easily, where I would have created a different assignment, I've got this already. I can reuse these forms over and over again. So when I choose to reuse one, it simply empties the data out of it and creates me a blank, effectively, template to move on to there. So again, there's the title. It's filled in that. I could put the instructions in. I'm going to assign it to the class. All I now need to do is choose assign, and really simply, I've now got a really quick quiz that I may well have used a couple of weeks ago in another class, or for example, something like that, which is now ready to use. And as whoever it is fills it in, that comes back, and then it goes into effectively my grades here, or my gradebook here, but I can look at my class analytics really easily over the term so far. And likewise, once you've installed Insights into Teams, you'll also find it will be sitting down here in the kind of applications area. And if I go here, what I would actually see as a teacher is I would see all the classes and a summary that I've been teaching as well. So obviously probably more applicable here for a secondary school environment, but I can get that kind of Kevin-wide teaching environment results or insights preview from there as well. So just mindful of the time, it is 4:25. Does anybody have any questions or anything that springs to mind from there? What I would say is please have a look at the Flipgrid, and over a period of time, please create a response that we can share with the community, with other people on the call, about using Office 365 in school. And then likewise, if you have any queries, questions about maybe your devices, class setup, technology that you want to be using in the class to really make that kind of engaging learning space, then please feel free to come back to Simon, who will Simon and the team who will be able to really help you with that, and drill down on the benefits of using that technology in the classroom as well. Simon, don't know if you've got anything you need to add, but please, as I say, if you've got any questions, and I hope you found this kind of series of sessions that we've done just as a catalyst, something that you can pick from and go, let's investigate this more. But I would say at the heart of it is really, think about that taking the best of the bits at the moment. You can always grow on this. You can always expand this by integrating it more. But thank you everybody for your time. As I say, Simon, I don't know if you've got anything else you need to add, but we are just about wrapped.
Yeah, I'm just going to put into the chat our YouTube channel link where we record these sessions and upload them. So if you want to share them with your colleagues, you can. I also got just a really quick Microsoft form, feedback form for you to click on and feedback and on these sessions. And if there's anything you want us to cover in the future, you can add that into that list, and we'll look at doing them in the sessions for the new year. Thank you.